Okay.
Right? Okay.
Good to go.
So, could you just go ahead and introduce yourself and explain how you're a part of the cycling community in Charlottesville, and if you're part of Bike Charlottesville?
Okay. I'm Thomas Bynum, second year UVA, trying to transfer into the architecture school. I'm a part of the cycling community. I ride my bike everywhere I go. I build and repair bikes on my own for fun, and I play bike polo with a group in Charlottesville. And so I'm pretty in touch with most people who ride bikes in town and on grounds.
So you do mainly urban cycling, if you would. I mean, just like
Yeah,
around town.
yeah,
Not like
most.
I mean, do you do recreational cycling like in trails and stuff? Or
No, it's more, I would say, commuting, more utility cycling.
okay, okay. So, could you explain why cycling, is important, especially to Charlottesville, and what? I mean, not to sound kind of presumptuous, but why can't people just use cars or public transit?
Yeah, for any city, cycling is a good idea just because it relieves congestion. Because 100 bicycles or 100 cars, 100 bikes can get anywhere faster and have less space to park. A lot of people don't do it because it does take a lot of work and you do get kind of smelly afterwards and it is sort of dangerous. In a city the size of Charlottesville, a bike is perfect because there's nowhere you're going to need to go that's more than about 5 miles in any direction, especially if you're centered at grounds. It's not great if you're going to pick up like a whole bunch of groceries, but any errand you have to run, it's pretty efficient. Why can't people ride cars or take public transport? I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, there's definitely less people who ride bikes than who ride cars. But I think that is just an ease of living sort of thing. Like if you're a mom and you've got 4 kids or something, you're not going to take them all on bikes to soccer practice. But if you're a single college student who doesn't have a car, I can't see a reason why you wouldn't ride a bike everywhere.
All right, cool. So, what would your definition of a like a bike friendly city be? What are kind of qualities of a bike friendly place?
Okay. I think the most bike friendly city on earth is probably Amsterdam because there's so many the like bicycle to people ratio there is higher than anywhere else, and there's less bicycle accidents even though there's like 5 times as many bikes there as there are in the states because everyone's just aware of it. And so they do have a bit of an infrastructure set up. They have excellent bike lanes. They have some spots where there's actual bike traffic lights. So like the bikes have their own traffic lights and the cars have their own. But I think the main thing is just educating people, just letting them know, hey, these people are sharing the road with you. They have just as much of a right to be there as you do, and it's more a community issue than a logistical infrastructure sort of issue.
Right. Well, how does Charlottesville compare to Amsterdam?
Charlottesville's pretty good. They got voted the number 2 most bike friendly city in Virginia a couple of years ago, and I mean I believe it. They've got fairly decent bike lanes. The drivers are pretty aware of it, and it's a gentle small town. So there's not a whole lot you're gonna have to contend with. I mean, there are accidents. That kid got killed last year. A buddy of mine 2 days ago got hit by a car and lost all his front teeth. I mean, stuff does happen, but overall it's pretty good. It's not too bad, but it's not too great either.
Okay. So, just kind of to move to a different subject, which areas of Charlottesville have you been to? And if you could just kind of generalize them, like UVA grounds or the downtown mall area, etc.
Yeah.
Can you say which ones are really good, really positive, bike friendly, and which ones are not as much? Because I know you've been to a lot of places.
Yeah. Definitely around grounds is very good, just because there's so many pedestrians and so many bikers anyway that everyone's looking out for them. So just the awareness of everyone is a lot higher. The stretch from Emmett to the downtown mall along Ivy, so like just the West Main drag, is really nice too. They've got big wide bike lanes. The cars go pretty slow because it's a kind of busy street, so they like slow down. The downtown mall you can't ride your bike, but it's really easy to lock it up there and go around. The worst place in town is to go up 29. That's where anyone I know who's gotten in an accident has been up there. Just because it's 4 lanes of traffic, it's really busy. There's no bike lane at all for a lot of it. The drivers aren't looking out, and it's too huge of a thoroughfare for a bike to contend with.
Right, but even then, it'd be a nice place to at least go on your bike because there's so many things down 29. Wouldn't you?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's where if you want to go to Whole Foods or if you want to go to like the movies or something, you might have to go down 29 every now and then because it's you've got West Main and then you have 29, and those are like the two main arteries you have to deal with.
Right. And what what has your personal experience with motorists been like? I mean, you told me about your friends, but generally, in Charlottesville, are the motorists usually aware of your surroundings? I mean, I know on grounds especially, they're very highly aware because people just walk across the street. But outside of just the UVA community, like, has it been relatively positive? Or
I mean, it's okay. It's not too bad. Some people will give you a big, wide stretch when they're passing you. They'll go almost into the other lane. Other people buzz right by you and honk just to try and knock you off your bike. I mean, it varies, but the majority of people are pretty good. I found that if you make eye contact with somebody, they're more likely to treat you well, just because they feel kind of bad because you've looked at them.
right?
But yeah, most people are pretty considerate.
Okay. Well, in all honesty, do you? I mean, just if you could be honest with me, do you follow all the rules of the road? Because cyclists are supposed to follow
Yeah, yeah,
laws and stuff. And one of the big complaints usually from motorists and bus drivers, etc., are that cyclists just go. They don't follow red lights and green lights and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I absolutely see people doing that all the time. They'll blow past stop signs or something like that. And it's a bit of a gray area for me because everyone I know who's like a serious cyclist, like I've got friends who are bike messengers in New York and Houston and stuff for years, and they know what they're doing. And they won't run a red light if there's cars coming. I mean, you don't do things that are stupid. But at the same time, if you pull up to a four-way stop sign intersection and there's no other cars, there's no reason to stop because you have momentum. You're powered by your own legs. You're going uphill. It would really suck to stop.
Right.
But I mean, and there's also bikes can get on the sidewalk too.
Right.
So people do that sometimes to jump past a light.
But I mean, in the end, don't you agree that I think to relieve some stress from motorists and maybe kind of create a more friendly community between the two.
Mm-hmm.
That if cyclists were to start following the rules of the road, more rigidly than potentially as they are now, would you agree? Like that would kind of help.
Oh,
foster some kind of
absolutely.
relationship?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like easy stuff. Like when you're turning, just put your arm out to that side or whatever.
Right.
Or my biggest pet peeve is people riding on the wrong side of the road. Like if you're a bike, you drive the way a car was. You drive on the right-hand side.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're turning left. You drive on the right-hand side, then get into the turn lane.
Okay.
And it's like, just little stuff like that would take 10 minutes to teach somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some other ideas then between to kind of foster a good relationship between motorists and cyclists?
I feel the people who are the best drivers for cyclists are people who ride their bikes because they know how much of a pain it is. And so I think maybe, I'm not saying we should give everyone a bike and take the cars away for a day, but maybe just, a little bit of empathy would help some. Just explain to it, like sort of a day in the life of riding your bike around. And again, just, some basic education, how to use the bike lanes. As a motorist, what to look for. One of the biggest problems is it's called getting doored, which is where you're driving along parked cars and someone opens their door and you flip over it. I mean, that happens way more than you would think to people. And so, when you ride along West Main, you put your right hand out and just slam doors back when they open them into you. But stuff like that, if you're about to open your door, just look behind your shoulder real quick. Just little, polite things like that.
Right. Okay. And we're almost done. But can you describe what your image of kind of like a perfect bike area would be in Charlottesville? Like how we could potentially change it. To make it really bike friendly.
Yeah. I think education would be great. Teaching people what to do, how to behave around them. Adding more bike lanes to different parts of town because they do have some in some important parts, but there's whole neighborhoods that have no bike lanes or anything in them. So just adding that to some majorly traveled areas. Another problem is when you pull up to a stoplight, it can't register a bike because it's not heavy enough or big enough. So something like that to help people, just like, infrastructure, things like that would make it friendly. But I think education would be the most important.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.